Hello and welcome to Scuttlebutt, a program for Navy's people and issues that matter to you. I'm Warrant Officer of the Navy, Mark Tandy. In this edition, we'll take a look at ways to keep safe this coming festive season. We'll also revisit the do's and don'ts of social media. Navy's medical specialists have been taking part in some pretty full-on training recently, and we'll drop in on HMAS Warramunga during its visit to China. I'll also be chatting to the Command Warrant Officer of Fleet, Martin Holzberger, on his take of issues that have been affecting you from a fleet's perspective. It's been a busy time across Navy in 2010, no more so than at Fleet. Joining me now is the Command Warrant Officer of Fleet, Martin Holzberger. Martin, welcome to Scuttlebutt.
Thank you, sir.
What are some of the issues that you've been following within Fleet recently?
It's been a fantastic year for our fleet. Our ships continue on operations in the Middle East area of operations. Our patrol boats and HS ships continue to do some demanding work to the north. In the humanitarian aid sector, we've conducted Pacific Partnership with the United States Navy, as well as Pakistan Assist. In the exercise front, we've conducted Kakadu, RIMPAC, as well as the Basama series, just to name a few. From the training area, we were about 600 plus trainees better off than we were this time last year, all looking very positive for 2011.
And what about the new Navy uniform, the DPNUs?
A lot of questions get raised on the Navy uniform, in particular the policy on caps and badges. That policy can now be found on the Directorate of Navy Uniforms website.
Thanks, Martin. Command Warrant Officer Martin Holzberger, setting the record straight on issues that are affecting you. We'll be seeing more of Martin in 2011 as we progress more of the Scuttlebutt series. But first, the holiday period is a time to relax with friends and family. But for some, it will be a time they would rather forget. Make sure this festive season is one you remember for all the right reasons. It's unacceptable in every sense, professionally and personally. There is no excuse for this sort of behaviour. The festive season means spending time with family and friends. Kick back and relax by all means, but do so responsibly. Lieutenant Commander Dee Williams is in charge of Navy's Drug and Alcohol Education Program. We spoke to her about low-risk drinking. Lieutenant Commander Williams, we've heard a lot about drinking alcohol over the festive season. Can you tell us a little bit about low-risk drinking?
Sure. The Australian National Guidelines recommend that men and women drink no more than 2 standard drinks on any day to remain at low risk of alcohol-related disease or injury. It's easy to keep track on how much you're drinking. The Australian government requires the number of standard drinks to be stamped on every label. Heavy beers have about 1 to 1.5 standard drinks in every bottle, can, or in a large beer glass. Light beers are somewhere between 0.5 and 1 standard drink per bottle. Your premixed girly drinks are about 1 or sometimes 2 standard drinks. Your Guinnesses, 1.5 standard drinks, and your premixed spirits are somewhere between 1.5 and 2 standard drinks per can. When you're having them poured for you, as I said earlier, a heavy beer in a schooner is about 1.5 standard drinks, whereas in a midi it's about 1. Light beers are about half a standard drink, and your mid-strengths fall in the middle there. It gets difficult if you're having cocktails, because cocktails can have up to 4, 8, sometimes 12 nips of spirits, and 1 nip of spirits, or 30 mils, is 1 standard drink. Wine is about 1.5 standard drinks for your standard wine glass, which is about 150 mils. And ports, if you're drinking port over the Christmas break, it's about 60 mils per standard drink.
So what are the tips to keep under the limit?
Well, the first one is, if you're going to drink, the smartest idea is not to drive. But if you do choose to drink, then eating is not cheating. Having something to eat before and during drinking makes a real difference to the way that alcohol can affect you. The next one would be to space your drinks. Have an alcoholic drink and then a non-alcoholic drink. And that helps to slow down how much alcohol you consume over the night and gives your body a chance to process some of that alcohol. And the last one would be to do something else. Dance, play pool, talk to your mates, maybe even darts. That once again helps to slow down how much alcohol you consume.
The bottom line is drink responsibly and look after your mates. It's your life, but alcohol abuse isn't worth the risk. Last Scuttlebutt, we had a look at social media and how to use it responsibly. Navy's webmaster, Lieutenant Commander Priya Chandra, has some more tips now on how to protect your identity when online.
Thanks, Juan. Now really, to be honest, the best way to stay safe online is not to be online at all. But given today's world, that's just not the most practical way to live your life. So what I'm going to do today is cover a few tips that can help you stay safe and keep your identity safe online. Firstly, don't use the same password across multiple sites. It's just asking for trouble. As soon as somebody has cracked your password, they have access to any other site you may have used that password on. And that goes for the type of password that you're going to create as well. When you create a password, don't use your name, your spouse or partner's name, your kids' names or your pets' names, their dates of birth, places that people would have general ideas that you've been to and have memories of. Make it as difficult for people to find and crack that password as possible. I understand that's going to be difficult for you as well, but the harder it is for people to find and crack that password, the harder it is for them to steal your identity online. Minimise the amount of information you put online in your personal profiles in various social networking sites. A lot of the questions that are asked by banks as security questions, such as date of birth, mother's maiden name, first school attended, are also pieces of information that people put up on social networking sites. This is just giving somebody the opportunity to aggregate that information together to the point where they could reasonably pretend to be you over the telephone. That goes for putting your personal home address up online as well. Leave it as generic as the city that you live in. Don't give people the street, and definitely don't ever put up the number of the house that you live in. Don't use the free Wi-Fi that's available at cafes. I know it's great when you're out and about to check your email and things like that. Keep it as simple as that. Don't ever use it for things like transferring money, paying a credit card bill, any of those sensitive financial transactions where people might be able to hack in and get your information. Free Wi-Fi networks are great for very simple, quick activities, but they're also a breeding ground for hackers to jump in and get as much information out of you as possible. So be careful when you're using those networks. Never send credit card details or bank account details with the password through things like email, chat, instant messaging, Twitter direct message. If somebody's after those sort of details, call them, speak to them directly, give them the information over the telephone. Same goes if somebody actually calls you asking for things like your credit card details or your bank PIN number. Ask them what they want it for, ask them for their telephone number, call them back. Don't ever just give your credit card details out over the phone like that. If you're shopping online, and aren't we all with Christmas coming up, make sure that the sites you use are secure. You'll know this because they'll have a padlock in the URL bar and they'll also start with HTTPS. These show that this site is safe for people to use their credit cards on. Alternatively, think about setting up something like a PayPal account with just a limited amount of money in it that can be your Christmas shopping money, or a debit card that's not related to any of your other transaction or bank account details, again with a limited amount of money on it that can then be used for shopping. If somebody does get those details, then they're only going to have a small amount of cash to blow through. And speaking of friends, I've brought this point up before in the last Scuttlebutt episode, but it definitely bears repeating. If you're befriending people on Facebook, and that's what we do obviously, that's why we're there, make sure you know these people. Don't just randomly accept friend requests from people that might sound familiar, possibly you served with, or worst of all, you don't even know, but you think that they're a friend of a friend, so you should befriend them. You're going to be sharing your information with these people once they're inside your network. And you want to be sure that the people that see your status updates are actually the people that you know and want to see that information. Don't do it, people. Honestly, just don't do it. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you online.
There's been a lot of talk recently about the replacement to the Collins-class submarine. To get the facts, Scuttlebutt spoke to the person in charge of the future submarine program, Rear Admiral Rowan Moffat.
It's probably one of the most ambitious defence programs ever undertaken in this country. It is different from every defence acquisition that has been foreseen, certainly in my 35 years in the Navy, and really going back even further than that, simply because it's a program which will put us in the prospect of developing a new industry sector. What do I mean by that? Simply that we will start building these new submarines, and by the time we finish delivering the 12th submarine, as outlined in the white paper, it'll be time to start building a replacement for the first. So we're actually establishing a new industry sector in Australia, if we go the whole hog of what the white paper describes. Our enduring circumstances are that we have to firstly travel a long way in our submarines to use them in the way that we use submarines, a very long way, far further than any other conventional submarine operator, generally speaking. That's the first thing to note, and that's the most important, because it drives the range that we have to have in the submarine, the endurance that we have to have, and endurance comes from how much food and how many people and how much oxygen you can generate and how many weapons you want to take with you, recognising that it's a long way to come back to replenish. And secondly, we're doing it in circumstances which differ quite dramatically from other long-range submarine operators for conventional submarines. In Europe, those people who design conventional submarines generally operate in fairly low water temperatures, whereas where we go, in tropical waters, the temperatures of water that we encounter drive a far higher demand for high-capacity air conditioning and cooling systems to keep the people and the combat systems able to endure those long-range patrols at long-duration patrols that we're looking at. So we have really quite demanding strategic circumstances for our submarines and our submariners. In our context, I think you can draw some really stark and clear parallels with some of the aviation capabilities. The submarine brings to the fight pretty much the same sort of thing that the F-111 used to bring to the fight, and that is very long range, very high weapon load, an ability to seriously strike an adversary at long range and without warning. Now, the F-111 has reached the end of its ability to do that because air surveillance systems have increased dramatically in technology over that time, not only in technology but also in spread around our region. The submarine does pretty much the same thing, an ability to go a very long way, strike very hard, without warning, and is very, very hard to detect.
Navy medical specialists are vital to what we do. A recent groundbreaking course held at HMAS Albatross took our reserve medicos outside their comfort zones. It's early morning at Naval Air Station HMAS Albatross. This group of Navy medical specialists are preparing for the worst, all in the name of training. The stretchers are prepared and the first aid kits are ready. They board the Sea King for a training flight which will test both their medical and naval skills to the limit. Exercise Bluestokes is a first for Navy. It's the first time Navy's health services have been able to gather together a group of full-time and part-time health professionals and deliver a consolidated training package. This evolution tested the medico's ability in flight. The dummy lived. The Bluestokes concept proved so appealing to Navy's health professionals that it was initially oversubscribed by 30 part-time and 10 full-time members. Victorian nurse, Lieutenant Chris Trent, says the 10-day course pushed everyone out of their comfort zones.
Probably one of the most challenging 10 days so far that I've ever done. I have spent 10 days totally out of my comfort zone, mentally, physically, you name it.
The Sea Kings also provided the medicos with some winching practice. But there were other modules to Bluestokes too, including Hewitt and a variety of medical procedures. Even the RAF got in on the act, sending down a team of instructors. Squadron Leader Paul McGinty explains.
As Air Force personnel, we don't get to play on naval assets all that often, so that's been quite unique in itself, and that's posed a few of the challenges for us as well.
Getting civilian health professionals in one place at the same time was a challenge, but Bluestokes coordinator, Commander Keith Johnson, says the exercise was an overwhelming success.
The Chief of Navy and the senior health management within Navy now have a number of extra people they can call on when they want to send people away to sea, in ships or for other exercises, because they are now, as a result of Exercise Bluestokes, able to be and qualified to deploy.
As for future courses, watch this space. A Bluestokes 2 will hopefully not be too far off. And that brings us to the end of Scuttlebutt and the end of another year. We'll leave you with this special tribute of HMAS Warramunga's recent visit to China. Until 2011, I'm Warrant Officer of the Navy, Mark Tandy. Stay safe.